Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Mara. It is time for another update, and on this chart we have an interesting initial wave 1 to the upside that, while it can work out definitely as only an ABC structure, I can also see it working as an initial 5-wave move to the upside as a leading diagonal. Yeah, this interpretation is perfectly valid and would actually allow us to look for a very interesting correction here within a wave 2 into the area of support between the $10.5 all the way down to the $1.1 level at the 78.6% retracement, levels from which, or area from which, we expect another 5-wave move to the upside within an impulse in a larger wave 3. Now, of course, it doesn't need to unfold as a larger wave 3. It could in the end still work out as an ABC movement, even within the idea of a leading diagonal that formed within this area. But if it is to be the impulsive and bullish structure within a wave 3, it is expected to be an impulse. Yeah, the wave 3 must be an impulse within this interpretation. And then we would expect, the correction in the wave 2 to get into this area of support, which it did. Yeah, we already have an initial 3-wave move to the downside, so technically it could have already completed and fulfilled all expectations, but we did not manage to create a reliable structure to the upside afterwards. Yeah, after this we only managed to form a 3-wave move to the upside, which previously we were tracking as an initial 1-2 setup in this area, and we were considering a potential extension within a wave 3 to the upside here as an ABC movement. This could have worked out as well, but this would have ultimately either built a larger wave C to the upside or a larger wave 1, a wave 1 part of an internal, being an internal part of the larger wave 3 to the upside. Now, with this interpretation, we may not even get reliable structures to actually track and look for trade setups, and it would be ultimately better if we actually just reset this wave 2 correction and we would start all over for a larger wave 3 to be forming. Yeah, it would be better even if it were only a wave C, because if we get an internal initial 5-wave move to the upside, even within a diagonal structure, even within another wave 1 like this, it would still be a confirmation that after a 3-wave correction we should expect an actual wave 3 within an impulse, and it should prove quite lucrative to look for a trade setup in this area. And in this yellow scenario we are actually looking just for this, a reset within the wave 2. Yeah, I'm not necessarily looking for a more bearish scenario, not until we actually break here below the 78.6% retracement at the $1.1 level. And we can actually look with quite high interest for this area of support to generate a reversal to the upside even within a wave 3 in an impulse. Now, since in the smaller time frame here we already have pushed into the last level of support here in the idea of an AB movement, and we have formed now a lower low, we actually don't necessarily find this interpretation to be a high probability. Yeah, initially we did manage to hold here the 78.6% retracement within this initial 3-wave move correction, but we did not manage to create a reliable structure to the upside. We only had a 3-wave structure, in this area, an ABC, and then ultimately clearly we extended even lower and we have broken the area of support, and now realistically we can still track a larger wave C to have already started, but we would need to start considering the wave 1 has actually topped here. We would have here a wave 2 correction, and then it would be another ABC movement to form a larger wave 3. Yeah, in this scenario I don't really believe we can reliably track a wave 1 that would be part of a larger wave 3 anymore within a larger leading diagonal in that wave 1, and we are pretty much stuck with this interpretation for direct continuation higher without forming a new low. Now, of course, the wave C doesn't always push beyond the level of the wave A. It doesn't necessarily form a new low, but it will just make it a lot harder for us unless it does. Yeah, we will have to be extremely careful, and we will need to find an internal initial 5-wave move to the upside anyway before we can look for a reliable position without forming a new low within this wave 2. Now, in this case, for still tracking direct continuation higher, we need an updated area of support, Yeah, we need the updated area for this entire 1-2 setup, and it would be here at the levels between the $13.7 all the way down to the $5.2 level. Yeah, previously we had here a potential 1-2 and then ABC to develop. Now we have a singular 1-2 setup in this area, although I want to make it very clear, this is not a reliable trade setup, and I personally prefer at the moment that we follow through here in the yellow scenario, and I will be removing here this area of support temporarily because I want to be discussing about this structure internally. And again, it's not a reliable trade setup, but breaking here the 78.6% retracement, the $5.2 level, would be a signal that we should expect even further continuation lower within this expectation, within the wave C in yellow. Now, with that said, again, we don't want to see this right now. In this area, we have had an area of resistance for a potential larger ABC movement to be unfolding within this wave 3. We did not manage to break it. We only had here a potential ABC movement to be tracked, and we did track that. We did have this area of support, I believe. Yeah, I'm actually not entirely sure right now. But then we had here a wave C to the upside, and it doesn't matter right now anyway. Yeah, if you want, you can actually check. But we have not managed to break the last level of resistance, and surely enough we did extend lower as per our expectations from the previous video, and the ideal target for this overall wave 3 here would stand at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, the $8.2 level. Now again, we are tracking a larger ending diagonal within the wave C, meaning that we only need an ABC structure to complete this actual wave 3. And where it comes to be a bit debatable is whether we actually should consider this to be a 1-2 setup, or if the wave 1 should have been all the way down here and this could be a wave 2, which is also a very plausible expectation. And then yeah, we would need to adjust slightly the area of resistance, but in the end it would go only higher and we would still have not broken it. Now, the idea is, in this scenario, we may expect even further extensions lower, because in this case, we would need a much more extended wave 3 that would have here an ideal target, the $4.1 level. And in terms of the overall expectations for this larger wave C, it would actually even line up better, yeah? In such a case, in an overall yellow interpretation from a large time frame perspective, we have here an ideal target at the 100% extension of the wave A, which is the $1.3 level. Yeah, that is in fact the ideal target for the wave C. But as always, we don't need to get there. It is just a level that the wave C is generally drawn towards. And with that said, yeah, we may get to something like the 61.8% retracement, the 78.6% extension, yeah, around the $2.6, $2.9 level. Seems a very plausible level to actually achieve within this wave C if it really is to play out in the end. But right now, yeah, we aren't going to focus on the larger structure. Again, both interpretations, where the wave 1 would have bottomed here and we would have the wave 2 top here, and the other one where the wave 1 would have bottomed here and the wave 3 would have just started, are plausible. We will need to be tracking the internal structure for more information on that. But right now, we can actually go here in the smaller time frame and focus specifically on this. Yeah, once we actually have this wave down, we will be tracking even further extensions, but in the end, ultimately, we will need to be still patient for this structure to play out. Because remember, there is still even a more bullish, or not necessarily long-term bullish, but more directly bullish scenario here in white, where we have an area of support, and once this structure within an ABC movement is done, we don't need any additional lows, and for that we would have an ideal target only at the $6.7 level. Yeah, we wouldn't need to push much lower to actually complete this structure, and it seems reasonable that within this push to the downside we actually get to that level. Now, internally within this movement, we are going to focus specifically on this area right now. I am expecting still a bit further continuation lower in a couple of senses. So I am looking at an impulse to be formed within this area, and I would be tracking this probably as a 1-2-1-2 setup, a third wave down, fourth wave up, and then this would be the first wave 5, but this would only complete a larger wave 3. And while it is possible for this structure to actually unfold as a diagonal pattern, it might even make sense in some cases, I will continue to track the idea of an impulse until we get evidence that this structure should complete early and that it should be tracked as a diagonal movement. And I cannot necessarily give you a permanent target or level of resistance for the next wave 4 correction, as we seem to still be extending within this larger wave 3. Yeah, we are still forming lower lows even as we speak right now, but we can look here for an area of resistance that would be roughly, now this would be again based on the current pricing, based on the current low within the wave 5, yeah, the wave 3 and the internal wave 5, and then we would be looking at the levels between the $11.3 all the way up to the $14.2 level, where a break above the 50% retracement would be a signal that this structure has formed an early bottom. We shouldn't necessarily expect a direct movement lower within this area, and we should start tracking from a larger time frame perspective other interpretations. Yeah, maybe something like an ABC within the larger wave 3, where the wave 2 would have topped here. Yes, this would be plausible to be tracked, and then yeah, stuff like that basically. And now internally within this structure, before we actually end the video, but I do also want to give you this idea. Again, I don't assume the wave 3 has bottomed here internally. I actually would like to still see additional lows, and this is what we will be discussing right now. But within this wave 5, before we end the video, I am looking once again for a 5-wave move to the downside. Now, based on the current structure in this area, I might even prefer an impulse once again, where this could be something like the actual core wave 3. We would have here a 1, 2, 3, 4th and the 5th, where honestly, if we don't manage to form a bottom within this wave 5 sooner rather than later, I would start to consider that this may see an extension and form something like a larger ending diagonal in a 1, 2, a third wave that would still be going, in this case in an ABC structure, and then we would still like to see a 4th and a 5th. And while I cannot, unfortunately, tell you right now when we will be able to tell if this is forming as a larger wave 3 within a diagonal structure, or if it is still part of, or a 5th wave within an impulse, yeah, could be even something like a 1, 2, 3, to be honest, but I can provide you a signal that this structure has likely completed and that we should not necessarily consider additional extensions in a more direct fashion. Maybe not within this wave, yeah. Larger extensions could occur, but not internally directly. And then I would be looking here at the levels between the $9.8 all the way up to the $11 level. And if we manage to break here above the 61.8% retracement, we could be looking for the larger correction here in the wave 4. Now, with that said, again, even this area of resistance depends on the actual low, so we would not need to start a reversal to get a reliable area of resistance, and if we push lower, I would need to adjust this area along with it. Now you can do this yourself if you want to actually track the exact area of resistance that you want to be looking for, but it's basically for this idea of a 1, 2 and the third wave that would still be ongoing. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.